Somebody else wrote it in. We're entering that time period. And the reason why we're entering this time period is because it's an age-old struggle. I told you about a book called The Coming Insurrection. It was written in France. Horrible book. Has really dark things in it. And it talks about destroy, kill the rich, destroy it all, destroy the families. The government has never gone far enough. It needs to go farther. And on top of that, what they need to do is they need to listen to us because we're just going to take it over. This book is the inefficacy of preaching, the inadequacy, the inability to do anything if you're just a preacher. And it's a book that is about, about 100 pages, and it is all about how preachers and this God stuff is nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. Noah's going to get that ark. That's what it was, huh? Noah and the ark. And it just tears Christianity and Judaism apart and talks about how these preachers in Christendom and also in the synagogues make no sense and they have no effect on people. And the best thing to do is, because of the subtitle is The Government is the Best Instructor. And it's talking about how we have to have a bigger, more powerful government. Now, listen to this last line and see if this doesn't sound like if it doesn't sound like Occupy Wall Street. Let it be so. Enjoy the moments which heaven in forbearance grant you. Drink deep the cup of iniquity. Intoxicate yourself with the poison of destructive flatterers. Till the people, discovering nothing respectable in the rich and nothing respectable in the great, insult, molest, and despoil them and their possessions, till all the orders of the state, running headlong on to each other, under the weight of every vice, break asunder the bands of laws and concord. Then, such a period, some civilized, some less corrupted nation will descend, sword in hand, and impose the laws and manners upon the people. So in other words, let's push it. Let's drink deep in iniquity. It's top down, bottom up, inside out. It is Occupy Wall Street. It is Bill Ayers. It was written in 1771 in France. The version that I have was actually printed in 1771 in London. It was printed by a guy who went over and said, these guys are on the verge of revolution. These guys, there's some really smart people over there. And they're saying, none of this Christian stuff, it doesn't work anymore. And the king doesn't work anymore. We need a new kind of government. And the people need just to take it. And he has this idea of how to push it. 1771, before Karl Marx ever came around. This has been going on forever. And it's the same struggle that our founders had. This was influencing the rest of the world. But we were over here talking about God and responsibilities. Our preachers were ineffective. It took a preacher that wasn't allowed in any churches because he was preaching heresy. He was preaching, according to the state-run religion, he was preaching that God is a personal thing, that God affects you. He was one of the first people. He is the original evangelical. He was the guy who cried when he felt the Spirit over in Cambridge, and everybody looked at him like, what are you? What's wrong with you, man? He's like, don't you feel it? Don't you feel the Spirit? This is what you're supposed to feel like, and it will change everything. He was kicked out of all of the churches and couldn't preach, so he went and he preached to the poor, because he was sitting in a church once, and remember, only the landowners, only the rich could sit there, and they were talking about bullcrap. It was all government stuff. And he looked out and saw the poor outside and said, shouldn't we have them in here with us? No, no, no. Because they couldn't vote. They didn't have any money. The church didn't care in England. He went and preached to the poor. He went and preached to the people who actually were alive and could feel the Spirit. He's the guy who came over, George Whitefield. And he turned our churches inside out and upside down. Now, let me tell you something. That's what Jim Wallace is trying to do. But Jim Wallace is trying to pervert our churches. He's trying to say that we are not a Christian nation. That's what we were founded on. Our roots come from George Whitefield. They come from Moses. They come from Jesus. That's all of our laws. Anybody, if Jim Wallace has ever read the Constitution, explain the odds and the coincidence, the number of verses and number of things in our Constitution that come right directly from the Bible and Deuteronomy. Explain that, Jim. Can you? Of course not. You'll probably do to the Constitution what you've done to the Bible and cut it all up. If you cut the words up and rearrange all the words, you can get it to say anything you want, Jim. The point of this is an age-old struggle. This is not new. And if any of our historians weren't corrupt, if any of our university professors weren't completely in the bag and corrupt, they'd know that, and they'd be teaching it. And all of our students and all of our youth would be looking now and saying, this is ridiculous. These guys know exactly how it's going to turn out. My wife and I, because in this package of this book came another piece that somebody had collected for years and put off onto a shelf and didn't know what to do with it now, were etchings of the French Revolution. My wife and I looked at those etchings last night. It looks like Occupy Wall Street. It's the same thing. And it will end the same way. And Barack Obama or whoever goes after him, I mean, it could be Newt Gingrich, doesn't matter. Could be Romney, could be Rick Santorum, could be whoever loses their way. They will, and we will cry out for him. They will become Napoleon. We are at a dangerous crossroads, and there is no return if Barack Obama is elected. America will be fundamentally transformed if she hasn't been already. If we're lucky, we'll be mired in the muck of European-style soul-killing collectivism. But if I am right, we become Venezuela. And there is no return to the power of the people until the people return the power to the truth. We have so perverted our system of education and our churches and our values that we don't even care or recognize the truth when it hits us. We're repeating, the answers are here, we're repeating the problems of the past. I'm going to show you a couple of things. This is Thomas Paine. This is an original copy of Thomas Paine's Common Sense. This one was published in England, in London, in 1792. All right, so even in 1792, when Thomas Paine wrote this, the publishers, I mean, it was printed in England, and if you got caught printing it, you'd be in trouble. And so they did because of the king. They just left spaces here, empty spaces, where it just stopped in the middle of the sentence, because that way you weren't printing things that were against the king here. But they left these spaces, and what they knew, I think, they knew that people who would see the American version would then just take and copy in, and this is a copy of where somebody did it. They took a pen and they wrote in what was in the American version here. This was a case of common sense against the ruling elite. It is the case of the Tea Party and some sane people in Occupy Wall Street. Now, let me show you this one. This book is from 1771. This one was also printed in London. And this is about how the church and preachers just can't do anything right, and the government is the best instructor. I'll read a couple of things to you here. One of them is just how in the mouth of every preacher of what nation forever never has nor ever can form a virtuous people. No matter what they say, they can't form a virtuous people. The very end, I found this striking. Again, remember, 1771. The very end, the last paragraph here. Let it be so. Enjoy the moments in which we have, and that forbearance, in which heaven in forbearance grants you. Drink deep of the cup of iniquity. Intoxicate yourself with the poison of destructive flatterers. Till the people, discovering nothing respectable in the rich and the great, insult, molest, and despoil them of their possessions, till all the orders of the state, running headlong onto each other, under the weight of every vice, break asunder the bands of laws. This is 1771. It was originally written in French. It was translated. It's what led to this. Remember, common sense led to the American Revolution, but it celebrated God. This tore God apart and said it was the state run by the right people. These are the images of, can you bring one of the cameras over here? These are the images of what this led to. And I just want you to see some of these. Remember when I've said that people are going to go in, Occupy Wall Street will eventually go in and they'll pull people out of their houses and they'll take their stuff and they'll set everything on fire? Here it is. This is people going in and throwing all of the possessions out of the houses and killing the rich in the street. Here is a preacher, a priest, holding up the cross, trying to get it to stop. Here they are building the guillotine. This is what we're headed for. These are the images of the French Revolution. It's what this leads to. I mean, you look at Occupy Wall Street. Greece. It's done it before. Thomas Paine and the Occupy Wall Street of 1771. The same argument has been made before. There is nothing new in history. We know how it ends. We have to choose American Revolution or French Revolution. All of the characters are here from the past and the present. We have to choose which leader will help us. Which one? Which one of the 4 presidents will actually help us? Which one is King George? Which one is Robespierre? Which one is Washington? Which one is Sam Adams? Which one is Benjamin Franklin? Tonight is Super Tuesday. Tonight is the night that America has to decide which direction are we going and which one has the balls, despite the consequences, to stand up.